The Galactic Council chamber fell silent as Ambassador Kethvar of the Zephyrian Empire rose from his crystalline seat, his forearms gesturing dramatically toward the holographic display showing Earth's coordinates. "Honored delegates," his voice resonated through the translator matrix, "we stand before a decision that will define our civilization's future. The primitive species from Sector 7G, the so-called humans, have requested membership in our council. I propose we deny this request immediately." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembly. The Vortakians clicked their mandibles in approval, while the ethereal luminari pulsed with satisfied blue light. Earth had been discovered only 3 standard cycles ago, and the initial reports had been unflattering. "Their planet," Kethvar continued, accessing his datapad, "is a Class 9 death world. Temperatures ranging from -89 to +58 degrees Celsius. Atmospheric pressure that would crush most civilized beings. Gravity 2.3 times the galactic standard. Oceans of corrosive salt water. Active tectonic plates causing constant seismic activity. Weather patterns that include rotating windstorms capable of leveling cities." The Delphine representative, her gills fluttering nervously, interjected, "Surely no intelligent life could evolve in such conditions." "Oh, but they did," Kethvar's voice dripped with disdain. "They call themselves humans, and they not only survived this hellscape, they thrived. They've covered their death world with structures, developed primitive space travel, and somehow convinced themselves they're ready for galactic civilization. The audacity is amusing." Laughter echoed through the chamber. The idea that beings from such a hostile environment could contribute anything meaningful to their advanced society seemed preposterous. Commander Vexthul of the Hegemony Defense Fleet leaned forward. "What threat could these Deathworlders possibly pose? Our weakest auxiliary forces could subdue their entire planet within a rotation. Precisely why we should reject their membership," Kethvar concluded. "We are a council of evolved, civilized species. We cannot lower our standards for primitives who crawl from toxic mud." The vote was unanimous. Earth's application was denied. 3 years passed before humanity's true nature revealed itself. The war began in the Kepler sector when the hegemony attempted to expand into what they believed was uncontested space. They hadn't bothered to check if the small blue planet they'd dismissed had established any colonies. The first engagement was at Kepler 442b, a mining colony that the hegemony assumed would offer token resistance before surrendering. Admiral Zixtal commanded a fleet of 50 warships against what reconnaissance indicated was a single human outpost. The battle lasted 14 hours. When the smoke cleared, 37 hegemony ships were destroyed or disabled. The humans had fought with a ferocity that defied all tactical analysis. Their ships were smaller, their weapons technically inferior, but they fought like creatures possessed. They used ramming attacks. They detonated their own vessels to take out larger enemy ships. They continued fighting even when their hulls were breached and their crews were exposed to vacuum. "How do they keep fighting?" Zixtal transmitted to High Command before his flagship was boarded. "Half their soldiers are injured, but they won't surrender. They're actually smiling as they charge our positions." The boarding party that took Zixtal's bridge consisted of humans who had been fighting in hard vacuum for 20 minutes. Their makeshift suits were patched with duct tape and hope, yet they moved with the fluid precision of apex predators. The footage of that boarding action spread throughout the galaxy like a virus. Within a standard year, 3 more hegemony fleets had been destroyed by human forces. Each engagement revealed new horrors about these Deathworlders. They didn't retreat when their positions were overrun. They fought from within enemy formations. They turned their wounded into mobile weapons platforms. They used their own casualties as psychological warfare, propping up their dead to make the enemy think they were still fighting. But it was the Battle of Proxima that shattered galactic perception of humanity forever. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Indomitable as enemy fire overwhelmed their shields. Around her, control panels exploded in showers of sparks, and the artificial gravity flickered intermittently. Half her crew was dead or dying, but she showed no sign of surrender. "Ma'am," her tactical officer called out, his voice steady despite the blood streaming from his forehead. "Enemy dreadnought is closing for boarding action. We're outnumbered 50 to 1. Chen smiled, that terrifying expression that had become humanity's signature across a dozen battlefields. "Then it's a fair fight. Signal all human vessels, Protocol Omega. Protocol Omega was something no other species had ever conceived. When faced with inevitable defeat, humans didn't surrender or retreat. They turned their ships into weapons. The Indomitable, along with 12 other human vessels, detonated their fusion reactors simultaneously while ramming the enemy dreadnought. The explosion created a temporary star that vaporized everything within a 50-kilometer radius. The surviving hegemony forces retreated in horror, carrying tales that would spread throughout their empire and beyond. Ambassador Kethavar received the battle reports in his luxury office on Zephyr Prime. His 4 hands trembled as he read the casualty figures. Entire fleets gone, not defeated, annihilated by creatures who treated death as just another weapon in their arsenal. The communication console chimed. A human face appeared on screen, Admiral Elena Vasquez, commander of Earth's Expeditionary Force. "Ambassador," she said, her voice carrying the polite tone of someone discussing the weather, "I believe we need to revisit Earth's application for Council membership." Behind her, Kethavar could see human soldiers moving with that characteristic predatory grace. They weren't celebrating their victories. They were preparing for the next battle, as if warfare was as natural to them as breathing. What do you want?" Kethavar whispered. Vasquez smiled. "The same thing we wanted 3 years ago. A seat at the table, recognition as equals. The only difference is now we're asking from a position of strength." The holographic display behind her showed a star map. Red markers indicated human colonies, dozens of them spreading across former hegemony space like an infection. Blue markers showed human fleet positions. They had somehow managed to establish a military presence in 6 different sectors simultaneously. "You called us Deathworlders," Vasquez continued. "You were right. Death follows us wherever we go, but we've learned to make friends with death, Ambassador. The question is, do you want to be our friend or do you want to meet our friend personally?" Within a standard week, an emergency session of the Galactic Council convened. The vote to grant Earth full membership was unanimous. Now in the corridors of power throughout the galaxy, beings who had once mocked the primitive humans spoke in hushed tones about the species that had turned warfare into an art form. Children of a dozen worlds learned new words in their languages, words that meant human and terror and inevitable. The Deathworlders had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same. In the end, humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology or their numbers. It was something the galaxy had never encountered before, a species that found beauty in struggle, strength in suffering, and victory in the very concept of never giving up. They had mocked the Deathworlders. Now their armies whispered human names in fear.